Hear ye, and welcome to the Royal Geek Podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rollison, also known as T-Roll, and tonight I am joined by my very good friends. First of all, we have Justin Sandoval, a.k.a. Sandy, and we also have Anthony Amato, who we like to call Shamato. Boys, good to be back with y'all. We're here to review a movie.
Yeah, movie review time. It's that time of year where they start coming out like every week.
Yeah, dude. Summer is like, not here yet, but
right around the corner.
We're starting to get those spring movies.
Yep.
Yes.
That lead into the summer.
That's right.
Yep.
So yeah, we're here to review Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
Yup, yup.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to talk about it with you guys.
Yeah, as you can see, we have our D20 in front here.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, the D20.
Yes.
Yes.
The D20.
Which was also Amato's popcorn holder.
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
A popcorn holder, yes.
Pretty cool popcorn holder, not gonna lie.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible, actually.
So yeah, guys, let's do this. How about we thank all of our listeners?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Shout out to all of our listeners, everyone who's tuning in, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or you're watching us on YouTube. We are very, very, very grateful for you. And also we want to encourage you to follow us on social media at Royal Geek Pod. Share the podcast with your friends. Leave a comment. Leave a review. All of these things help us out a lot. Okay, so with that in mind, I guess this is your spoiler warning.
Yeah,
spoiler warning. Okay, here it is: D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves. I don't know, Shamato. Why don't we just, let you take the lead?
Yeah, Shamato, go ahead.
I mean,
why don't you give us some backstory?
Okay, so none of these characters are really based in the D&D world at all.
Well, before you get there, give some backstory for you.
So, out of the three of us, I am the only one who actually does play Dungeons and Dragons.
Currently,
yes. Basically, Dungeons and Dragon is a role playing type game where you have a set number of dice. That's the main dice that people think of is this one right here. It's the 20-sided die. There's also multiple other die that you can use for different situations, depending on what you need them for. And basically, you just kind of role play through situations, and you build characters, and you go through adventures in the D&D world, pretty much.
And you play every week, right?
Yes, I play every week.
Okay.
Yes.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been with this group that I'm with right now for probably almost 2 years now.
Okay,
Incredible.
That's cool, man. And on average, how long does it take to play, when you guys get together?
A session is generally about 3 hours.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
You get some food, drinks, and just hang out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. We'll do that sometime.
We will.
Maybe
we'll make it
a Patreon exclusive
in
the future.
Yeah, there you go.
If we ever get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. But the movie itself, like all these characters, the characters themselves are not a part of any sort of lore.
No.
Right. So they created these characters just for this movie.
They are based around some basic class features. Each character kind of has their own class feature that they are set up for.
Yeah.
And they are all pretty much certain races that are related to the D&D universe.
Okay.
Like they had a tiefling with them. I think there was an elf, and then there was I think most of them, the rest were humans. There was a Holgar was a barbarian. That was her class.
And that's real. That's like a real class.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the people that are listening who are real D&D players, they're gonna be frustrated with me tonight, just because I'm gonna ask so many questions because I know nothing, and I apologize on the front end. So a Harper, is that a real class?
No.
More of a guild, right?
Yeah, it'd be like a guild. It'd be like a profession
Yeah.
or a background.
Okay.
What Edgin was he was a bard. What a bard is basically.
Did they say that in the movie?
I'm not sure if they actually say he's a bard or not.
They didn't come out and do it, but you give anybody a lute, and you pretty much
You say
you're a bard.
Basically, a bard is based around some musical connection, but they're generally more like intelligence based, which is a skill stat.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess he was playing his little.
Yeah, he had his
okay.
lute,
Yeah.
As well as they're also lots of times kind of smooth, and they're charismatic, which is
very much.
Yes, which is another stat that you can have is charisma.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what they're based around. Like when you see Chris Pine, you're like, okay, yeah, that'd be something that would make
Wait,
sense.
what are
for
you
him.
here for? Well, I make plans.
Yeah.
Well, the plan's made. So what value are you bringing now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, if the plan goes south, I can make another plan.
Yes. Yeah. So you make plans that don't work.
And
that was
And that's
great.
the funny thing, though. Like I used to play D&D back in the day. It's been probably, I don't know, what, 8 years from now?
Yeah, it's been a long time since we played.
But the bard, I mean, that's the running joke with like the bard. Like when somebody picks a bard, you're like, what value do you bring to the party? Like that kind of thing. But yes, the charisma's where it's at. Because and the luck and the I mean, yeah, there's a lot that goes into the bard.
Yeah, lots of times bards aren't super, super great in combat, which is the part that people normally think about and care about the most. But they're better for like outside of combat for interactions and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe we should say this. I had very little expectations going in this movie.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like when I heard about it, I was like, man, this just feels like one of those movies that is
A
just
money grab.
Yes, a money grab. It's not going to be good. You get a big name actor in there, but it's not going to be good. And I thought it was going to be kind of cheesy, corny at times.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a great movie, man.
Yeah.
It's a really
It was
fun
a super
movie.
solid
It's
movie.
Yeah.
Fun, solid. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Motto. You couldn't have said
Yep.
it better. Because I mean, it's the definition of a solid movie. It really
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
It hits on all fronts. Action's pretty great, actually.
Yeah.
And the comedy.
Yeah.
The comedy was good.
I didn't expect the comedy. Like
The beats
that.
were great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. They gave stakes. They gave like reasons for you to be backing these characters. So it was very much, it had pretty much everything that you wanted in a movie that would help make it something you would actually want to actually go out and see.
It had like a Shrek feel in the sense of like and I mean that in a good way, like in the comedy. Like it's like a fantasy kingdom, but there's like magic. I mean, it really actually did feel like a lot of the things I like about Shrek that were in this movie too. Like honestly.
That's true. You're right.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it really it got an 80. I think it's 89% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It killed it in the rating so far.
Yeah.
It's high. It's real high.
Really high.
Scoring
And
high with audiences.
Audience scores
and
even
To
higher.
be honest with you, we saw John Wick last week. There were more people in the theater for the exact same show.
All right. So how many people were there last night?
There were in my theater probably 20 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, how about you?
There was like a total of like 7.
Okay, mine was probably around that. Man, well, maybe a little more, but so I did a matinee showing, and maybe that's why it was just like a lot of old people.
That's what it is. It's because they're the only people that can actually go, and I believe there's like discounts if you go at a certain time if you are over a certain age.
So something really funny that happened in my theater, though, the first fight scene where it was loud. Basically, there was somebody in the second row who was talking a lot, or like interacting and talking like along with the movie, and someone in the front row, not like the very front, but like the front row of like the subsection, turns around and at the top of his lungs screams, "Shut up!"
Wow.
to this old man, and I was like, "Yo, what's about to go down in here, dude?" I was like looking around like. And it's funny. It's like there's one exit, and it's like you have to go past them to get to it. And I
You're
was
about to see 150 years worth of brawl.
yes, dude. I was like, what is going on here?
That's good.
Anyways, but yeah, I mean, I was surprised how many.
Yeah.
I mean, well, maybe I shouldn't be surprised because there's a lot of people in this world who play Dungeons and Dragons.
Been around a while.
I mean, it's probably was legitimately like it's the newest movie out. Older people are the ones that are going to go out during that time. They're like, "Hey, that movie's on.
Yeah.
Let's go."
Yeah.
What about you, though? You had a younger crowd, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, we had a much younger crowd.
You had some D&D players.
Yeah,
though.
we had D&D
Yeah.
players. We for sure did. It looked like they came with their like campaign party too. Like it was pretty cool.
That's
It was pretty
awesome.
cool to see.
That's cool, man.
But overall, I mean, when that trailer first dropped, like 8 months ago, or however long ago it was, I was like, "What the heck are they doing? Like, this looks cheesy. This looks bad."
I was
very
wary.
skeptical. Yeah.
Yes.
So going into this, I was like, I mean, I'm excited to see it, but I mean, I don't know, have very high expectations. But then as the movie went on and progressed, I was like, dude, this is a fun ride. Like I'm having a good time. I'm thoroughly enjoying myself here. And I went with Markham, and he Markham and I laughed so hard at some of these lines in this movie. It was great.
Yeah.
The whole thing at the beginning when he was describing his background and stuff like that, he kept on stopping to be like, this part would really resonate with.
Is Jonathan almost here?
Jonathan.
Oh,
Jonathan.
yes. That's so awesome. Yeah,
That was so good.
And
And when they finally get out the window, they're like, "But we approved your pardon."
yes, that was amazing as well.
oh my gosh! And
Again, the beats were good.
it was, and the payoff at the end when Hugh Grant's character
Yes,
was
when they
trying to
bring it
escape
around,
too.
yes.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
bricked
They had
up the
sealed-
window.
yeah, they'd sealed
That's
up the
so
wall.
great. I love that. That is so good.
Yeah, well, Forge. His name was Forge, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. There you go. Forge.
It's a pretty cool name for a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, like, they did a good job of getting you somebody you hated. Like the crowd can rally against Forge because he really was a
Scumbag?
Scum.
Yes. Yeah, he was a scum. He was smarmy and
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, it honestly felt like a movie that I will enjoy just having on at the house, while I'm hanging out.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I haven't rewatched it yet, but I feel like it does have. There's enough stuff in it that makes me say, it's. I feel like it's got some rewatchability.
yes.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think there's some things that even like once we start getting you playing D&D, I think if you watch it again after that, T-roll,
Yeah.
I'll get more excited.
You'll get more excited because I do know like I haven't played in like 8 years, right? But I could pick up on some things. I'm like, oh,
Yep.
okay, all right, this is the direction we're going here, and it
Yep.
was cool to see, and especially like the scene with the dragon and the dragon spewing acid, right? Like
pudgy dragon?
like that right there. I was like, see that's D&D right there.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Oh, you mean the flashback scene?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. The flashback scene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the in-shape dragon.
The in-shape dragon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, but the pudgy dragon.
pudgy-
When the pudgy dragon rolled, it just started
Yes.
rolling, dude.
It was hilarious.
It was so
yes.
awesome.
They said that's a pudgy dragon.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. But I mean, I think they did a phenomenal job of dropping in some of those hints about the D&D world and characters and things in D&D without making it drag it down for people who have not experienced D&D. So they did a great job of making it fun for everyone.
Yeah.
And I was telling T-Roll off the pod, it's a hard thing to do because when you have this content, there's a sweet spot that you're aiming for where you don't want to go too hardcore into the lore sometimes because then you alienate the
People like me.
Yeah, you'd alienate you, but you don't want to go too generic and too soft on the lore because then you alienate people who actually know about the lore, your core audience, and you've seen it all the time. Like I brought up the reference of the movie Draft Day. I feel like it kind of alienates like regular football fans or like real football fans because it really waters down the experience a lot.
Yeah.
Of what Draft Day is. But anyway, so they do some great things, just dropping names here and there and little things like Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate is a huge part of D&D, and I can't remember the other name they dropped. I think it was Waterdeep. That is also a part of. That is a big chunk of D&D lore as well. So they did a great job of making those things a part of it. So where if you're a fan of D&D, you're like but if you're not a fan of D&D, you're like okay, those are just references of like geographical
it's a part of
references
world
to the
building.
world.
It's
Yeah,
part of
the world,
world
yeah.
building. Yeah.
very much so.
So the world that they live in, is there an official, again, this is going to sound like such a lame question, dumb question. Is there like an official world for Dungeons and Dragons when you're playing it, like Middle Earth, or whatever, or is it just like what we saw in the movie today was just one of many potential worlds that you can
I don't remember the name of like
the country or the world or
yeah,
whatever.
To tell you the truth, I don't remember exactly. There are different places that you can play in
Okay.
different like realms and universes and things like that. But there is one main one. And I can't remember off the top of my head right now. To tell you the truth, what is its name?
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah. So but they did a really good job of like references and little things like that. One place they did a really good job was in the labyrinth at the end.
Yeah.
that was awesome.
There was a lot of cool things. They brought in a mimic, which is one of the more famous villains, or not villains, but creatures that you can run into in the D&D world. That was the one that was the chest that that comes out, and they did a great job of foreshadowing it as well, because like they had a couple that were successful, and like as a D&D player, you're like, they should be checking for traps right now. But you know, as a normal person, you're just like, okay, they're setting up a little something, and then it ends up being a mimic. And then the giant cube that you see is called that's a creature called a gelatinous cube.
Yep.
That's what
Gelatinous cube. So it's
Yes.
a
It's
creature.
It's one of the most deadliest creatures.
Yes.
Well, I
in the
noticed
game.
that somebody got caught.
And it digests you.
Yeah, and like they came back around him and like 2 minutes later, and it was already like a skeleton.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they disintegrate you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's crazy. So, yeah, it was
Yeah.
that was really crazy.
When you come across them in the game, you don't want to roll a 1. That's for sure.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
so
Way to go, guys! I don't know what you were even talking about.
Listen, Tyrell, briefly, 20-sided
Yeah,
die.
let's talk about the die.
If you roll like a 10 or less, your odds are very like of
Yeah.
you getting destroyed in the game. It's going to happen.
Okay.
But if you roll like a 10 or a higher, your odds of escaping the situation or defeating the
you got a
situation
50-50
are
shot.
better.
Roughly.
Well, your chances,
Sort of.
If you get a 20, you're like you're scot free. You do the most perfect thing possible. Like that's how it goes.
Essentially.
Yeah. But if you do a 1, like you're guaranteed screwed.
We need to play this sometime.
I'm telling you. Yeah, it's got to
Put some
happen.
cameras on. Let the audience kind
Yep.
of join in on the fun.
A lot of fun. But yeah, so I felt like they did a great job in that, and like it was very easy to tell if you were outside of the audience. Like you knew immediately. Like okay, so you were like, oh, I mean, you may not know what a gelatinous cube was, but they did a good job of showing you, hey, this is what it does. You know,
Yeah, there's a threat here.
Yes,
Yeah.
in that universe, and it was an awesome setup for that part of it, and you got to see it interaction, and you know, it was really cool to see all that kind of stuff. And they do a great, they do a lot of cool stuff with like role playing and things like that, and some of the stuff that they did, like for the fact that you know. There were tropes that they built into it, like the sorcerer being terrible at sorcery.
Yeah.
That's kind of in a way getting into the role playing because of the fact that you know sometimes you just roll really bad and like it doesn't matter how good you necessarily are. There's always going to be just because you have the abilities doesn't mean you're always going to do well.
And sometimes you can roll a 20 and then put that helmet on.
Yes.
But yeah. Oh yeah.
Pretty much.
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah. Like and like you
I'm
run
getting it,
into
guys.
Yes, you're picking up on it, man.
But yeah, like things like that, or like we had talked also before the pod about when Zenek or is it?
Zenek, yeah. You
Yeah,
got it.
Is that it? Zenek?
was referring to them when they were about to go over the bridge.
Great scene.
And like he's like talking about it, and then the sorcerer steps on a stone, and like the entire bridge like
Before,
That was a great scene,
Before he
actually.
even finished the instructions.
yes, and that is something that would totally happen in a D&D session where someone does something incredibly idiotic and gets themselves really in trouble because they're not paying attention or they're not understanding the situation entirely as they should be.
Yeah. And that scene, like the comedy timing there, the comedic timing there was phenomenal. Like,
Yeah.
it was great.
Like-
'Cause- no, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you got
Well, I
it.
was gonna say because what's his name?
Zenek.
Zenek. He was like so committed to these instructions. And he's like, you have to do this. You have to do this. And then Simon. He was just like, oops. Like,
Well, and the way Zenek just kind of turns his head,
Yeah.
and looks
yeah,
at him,
he's
and he just stares at him for like a really long beat.
yeah,
Like
Yes.
a really long time, where
it's
you're
good.
like waiting for him to say something, and he never does.
Yeah.
he just
And
keeps
everyone's like,
staring.
now what? Like,
Yeah.
that's so good, man.
Yeah, and that was, and then so I guess what happens next in that scene, like when Holga has like a little walking stick,
Yes.
but it turns out that it's a
hither, thither.
hither thither.
Yes.
Is that something that would happen when you're like, oh, one of our people has this thing, but really it's a like? How would you know when you're playing a game of D&D like that?
So basically, there'd be some sort of you would have to ask the DM for some sort of a roll on that to be able to look into what this item is. And if you roll really well, you'll understand kind of what it does. If you don't roll well, you'll probably just be like, oh, it's just a regular walking stick. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it would go in a situation like that. Or to tell you the truth, that reminds me more of a situation where a DM is trying to retcon a bad decision that that the party made and is handing you something so that you can actually get past this thing that you really, really screwed up.
Okay,
That's really what it reminds me of
Yeah,
mostly. It's a Deus Ex Machina moment where basically the DM has to fix something that you messed up.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. That's good.
And
That's good.
well, it's funny because the staff turned into be something great, right? But it was a walking stick for Bradley Cooper's character.
Oh,
who
man. Can we talk about that?
Out of nowhere, he's like the size of like a dwarf. Like I don't know, was he a dwarf? I
No,
don't
he's
know.
he's a halfling.
Halfling
is what
okay.
he is.
And he's like miniature. And Holga is his ex-wife.
Yes.
And he's got this new girlfriend now who's like just as
Gwen.
Yes, just
Who's
as
actually bigger.
Bigger.
She's a Goliath. I think she's a Goliath, which is basically like a. It's like a smaller than like a giant, but it's bigger than like a normal like big human.
But it was such a funny scene, man, because he's
Oh, it was
just
great.
so little, and the interaction, and
And it took me like a couple minutes into the scene to
Is
realize that was Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
That
made it
was-
even better.
He was actually the size of Rocket, right?
I mean, maybe
Close.
That's
it's
awesome.
possible.
I love
It's
that.
actually very possible that he's roughly the same size as Rocket.
Yeah. That's great. I love that.
Oh man, yeah, it was awesome seeing him, and just clearly Holga is just obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, but yeah, she is just obsessed with him.
Yeah. And the comedy was it was good.
and he's totally moved on.
Yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. And he knew, like he wrote her a letter saying, "You're not my wife anymore." Like he knew
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
your closure.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, so tell me a question for you, Shimano, is the whole Red Witch thing, or the Red Wizard? Wait, was it a Red Wizard
Or Red Priest or something.
Red Priest?
Yeah.
So is that a part of lore, or is that something they made up?
That's pretty close to something that is real. Those are also there are people who deal in like necromancy and things like that, like the raising of the dead, or things along those natures. So that's kind of what it was leaning towards. She was a sorceress of some sort. I forgot where they were from. That it actually was, and because she is from the same place as Zenek is.
Yes.
They're from the same.
Yeah.
Of course, they're from the same place, and that's why they were so like negative about him to begin with. They're like, this dude can't be real,
Yeah.
It's like he's got to be a terrible person, and which actually kind of leans into like a little bit into D&D stuff, because there are a lot of things where like, okay, so if they're this type of person, they're generally evil, like they're an evil creature, or they're a good creature if they're this type of creature. So it kind of falls into it. So it was an interesting thing to where they had a version of this generally considered evil thing to be fighting for on the side of good.
Yeah, he was a freaking BA.
Yeah,
man.
how about his introduction scene where he comes walking to the crowd, he hands the jacket, and he goes up to the fish, he like
Yes.
stares it down and pulls the little cat kid out.
Yes.
Like, and then he just gives the kid away, walks away.
Walks away.
The guy holding his jacket. Oh my god.
Well, did you hear what Simon said?
no, what he said.
Simon said, "Oh, I pulled a fish from a cat from a fish before."
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
Simon is so self-conscious around
gosh.
what's that
Dork?
chick's
The tiefling. Yeah.
Is it Doric? I think
Doric?
Yes. Dork. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, y'all. We
Yes.
none of these characters
yeah.
are real, so
Exactly.
Yes, Doric, who's a tiefling, and she can wild shape. Is what that's
Which is
called.
cool.
Oh, yeah, it's super cool.
That scene where she's spying on the
Yes.
on
Fly.
Sophia, and she's the fly, and then you literally are following her the whole entire way, and she's transforming as she goes. That was a wild scene.
And she
Yes.
turns into it, and she eventually turns into a deer.
Yes. And it
Yes,
pays off.
and then Holgar's like,
So she
turned
did.
into a
Yeah,
deer, though, right? Yes, which was phenomenal.
He's like, but at the end.
Yeah.
At the end.
like it didn't count, right?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, like the comedy was so good. Like,
Yeah.
we saw like you guys probably didn't see it, but there was like a TV spot that kind of gave away the first part of the graveyard scene, and
Oh my gosh.
I thought it was funny, but on the TV spot, and it maintained the funniness going into the graveyard scene for me, and it was good.
The graveyard scene.
Yeah.
So I didn't see that TV spot, but
I'm
I'm
glad you didn't, because
I do want to talk about this graveyard scene.
it was so good, man.
incredible.
Yes, and that's an actual spell. That
Really?
you can use. Yes.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Yes.
So like if somebody dies in your
Party, yeah.
party,
Yeah.
you can then use a spell to like ask them 5 questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or if you come across a dead body, you can.
Yeah.
Oh wow, man, this is cool.
Literally like how they use
Yo,
it.
we got to
It's
get
like,
some drinks,
Yeah.
some pizza, some wings.
Uh-huh.
Sit around for how long will it going to take? A few
Probably
hours.
the first day, first campaign, probably 8 hours just
Yeah.
to get the character set up and everything.
Okay, so we'll take a nap in the middle.
Yeah.
Jeez, it's like a full day's work.
It
I mean,
really is.
it's generally like if you come in with nothing behind you, it's 3 or 4 hours to get an entire party's worth of characters created.
Yeah.
Usually.
You're sitting down, you're talking about it, you're thinking about it, you're kind of writing a little bit of a backstory too.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole thing. Yeah.
It's cool, man.
Yeah.
But yes, this graveyard scene. the first guy they ask questions where he's like, he doesn't realize he's asking questions, and he's like, he'll throw the word "okay" at the end, and it's like, and then Simon's like, "Did you know that you, or why did you?" Why did you add the word "okay" at the end? Which was another question.
Yes.
I didn't.
So they just wasted all the
Yes.
questions.
Which was, I mean, like you could kind of see that kind of coming in the idea of it, but it was still really funny, like
it
the
was
way they did it.
incredible.
Like you knew they were gonna, in a way, them telegraphing that you knew that they were going to step in it was like it was almost in a way of like saying to the audience, "You're smarter than this party." You know, like in a way, like you know what's going to happen, and you know they're going to mess up, but it's going to be funny.
Yeah, and then we proceed with like a montage of grave diggings and questions, and it's
Yes.
like leading from one person to the other person, trying to figure out who had this helmet.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they're flashing back to the battle.
Yes.
And like
Oh,
the one
man.
guy who like slipped and fell and
The
died at the
Yes.
He got out of-
bathtub.
He's like, "Oh, we're gonna have a great battle today."
Oh, that's my brother.
Yes.
So good, man. So good.
Man, it's one of those scenes like I can't like recall everything that happened in it, but like again, I'm gonna thoroughly enjoy watching that again.
Yeah, and it was a good time. It really was.
Yes.
And I think you can honestly show this movie to anybody. You can be somebody who's not a fantasy fan, and I
Yeah.
think they're still gonna have a good time because just the comedy timing was
Yeah.
just so good.
Worth
Well,
the price of admission.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and like
it
that,
is, it is.
that scene was, although it was supposed to be funny, it was very much a part of the story. It was moving. Like it wasn't like the same thing, even though technically like the same formula was happening multiple scenes in a row, but they were moving the story along and they were gaining new information, which makes it so much better. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't like, oh, we're gonna make a fart joke and then make another fart joke because fart jokes are funny.
Yeah.
It was, we're gonna make a joke, but then you're gonna learn a little bit more. Maybe it's some very similar joke the next time, but
Yeah.
you're learning a little bit more.
Yes. And then when Zenik.
Zenik, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we think that's his name. We're going with it. Zenik. When they're like,
It's spelled crazy, by the way. It's
is it really?
yeah. It's
So
like
when they're
XENK.
oh wow, that's cool. When they're like
It
talking
might
to
be
him,
Zank. Is it
is
Zank?
it Zank?
Dude, I don't even freaking remember.
Yeah.
We see, you say things so. I'm tired of you, bro. Freaking coin flip over here, man. You say things just you don't even know.
You know, I'm just going
you
with
say
what it
things
looks
so
like.
confident.
just-
We
We
don't
just say things with authority.
That's
All right.
right.
Well,
that's right.
the what was his? He was a Thane. Was
A
it?
Thane,
Yeah.
yeah.
A Thane.
Yes.
See, we don't know.
He was from Thane, is what it was.
From
He's
Thane.
Thane.
Paladin is what he is.
Yes, yes. He was a paladin from Thane, which is the place where all the red
Okay.
were from.
Red witches or
Yes,
whatever
yeah.
they are.
That's where they were from.
But he doesn't understand like when they're speaking figuratively.
Yes.
Oh,
It's-
yeah.
So it's
Or
kind of like
sarcasm.
it's kind of like Drax.
Yes.
You know, like in Marvel where he's like he doesn't catch any sort of
I don't speak in colloquialisms.
yes. Nothing flies over my head.
Yes.
My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it.
Yes.
He was a more sophisticated version of that.
He's like
yeah.
actually like the way that Drax would talk as you know, like this guy could back it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, he was very much like the kind of person who has spent, in a way, the way he spoke was almost like someone who'd never left like a library in his life, but had read about everything. You know, in the sense of like it like the real world, the way that people experience things didn't necessarily like click with what he knew in his world.
Speaking of being in a library, remember when they're like whispering, and he said, "I can hear you."
Yes.
Yeah.
I can still hear you.
Yeah, I can still hear you. He like answers their question.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Yes, that was phenomenal, and it was like there were a lot of moments where I was like, and as a compliment, that there were things that were like parallels to the Marvel universe. Like
Okay,
for
let's
example,
hear
like you were saying with Zank, where like the Drax thing, or even in that moment where Edgin is saying those things. That was very much to me in my mind, like when Star-Lord was talking about Thor. There was this new person who is, you know, had like the looks
The
in
better.
Better than him at everything.
well, yeah, better than him at everything, but also to the point to where it was like, not only was he better than you, but he was so effortless with it that it made it more infuriating because it just like flowed. Whereas like his character was trying all these times to be this effortless, it's like fake effortless versus real effortless.
Totally, yeah.
And then even like, so the final fight scene against Sophina, the scene when they're all going at her, like my first instinct was the Avengers fighting Thanos on Titan. That's what I was thinking, as they were all going at her.
Yeah.
And then and then right after that, there was another scene where I was like, when Dorich turned back into the owlbear and was just pounding on her, I was like,
the Hulk with Loki.
Yes, the Hulk with Loki.
Oh, that was good. That was a good scene.
Yeah, you're right. There are some parallels there.
Yes,
She kept going too.
yes,
Yeah, and the way that that Red Witch or whatever, what's her name again? Sophina. The way that she was like using different spells each time, it kind of looked like the Infinity Gauntlet, where he's literally different colors, different
elements,
abilities.
Stuff,
yeah. So that's a good shout, man. Okay, what else? I will say emotionally when they use the tablet at the end to bring Holga back, I was like, dang man, it got me. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I'm over here laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, to tell you the truth, okay, so before the movie, me and my friend Josh literally had he asked me, okay, so over under how many times over under whether Michelle Rodriguez will die or not. And I was like,
Interesting wager.
And I was like, okay, so over, I was like 0.5, I'm going to say over. But still, like, even though I was kind of expecting her to die, because she's sort of like a female Sean Bean in a way.
Yeah.
But without as much experience dying.
She actually comes back.
Yes.
Like in Fast franchise.
Yes.
And in this franchise.
Yes.
Oh my god.
But anyway, I was kind of expecting her to die at some point, but then when I saw her, I was like, oh,
she's really dying.
That mom is gone. Like immediately, that's what I thought. I was like, that mom is gone.
I was right away, and I was like, he's got to use the tablet on her. This is it.
Well, and then the crazy thing is, like, even more emotionally, like he said, "Oh, we're going to use this to bring your mom back," and then the whole montage flashback of she actually was the mom the whole entire time.
Yes, yes,
that was great. That was great.
Yeah, that was super awesome. And when they showed all that kind of stuff, and like the whole situation about him. Like him kind of having to confront his own inadequacies in a lot of ways was really interesting, like kind of character building throughout the entire way. Because even though in ways, yes, he always had those opportunities to be like, but it wasn't really my fault. Like he had and the thing is, as an audience, they did a really good job of those opportunities where you would believe him. Because in a lot of ways, it wasn't his fault. Forge and Sophina didn't. They kind of screwed him over, multiple times at the beginning. But it was also like, okay, well, but you could have told your daughter what you were doing. Mm-hmm. You could have been like, hey, I don't want to do this, and all those types of things. I don't want to work with somebody who is, I have no idea who this person really is. Right. All of those types of things. He could have made all those correct decisions, but they left enough leeway to where it was like, even though the whole time he could still be the good guy as he was going along, but it was his own internal struggle that he had to kind of come through. And by the end, like you never really hated him for anything that he did, but he had to confront himself to keep his to win back his daughter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's so funny because the irony of like the advice that he's essentially trying to give Simon the whole time.
Yeah.
Like Simon's got
yourself.
What's that?
Just believe in yourself.
Yeah. Well, just like you got to overcome yourself.
Yes.
Like you are the problem.
Yeah.
Yourself. Yeah. And his was like more of a self-confidence, but still, it's just like they were their own worst enemy.
Yes.
So. I don't know, man. There's a surprising amount of depth too, man. It wasn't just a fun, fantasy adventure. Yeah. There was actual stakes and actual depth, and
enjoyed it, man.
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
Yeah, very enjoyable.
And of course, his daughter was played by who was a pretty solid little actress in her own right. She was actually in the new Avatar movie. The actress was actually in the new Avatar movie,
really?
And she was actually in one of my favorite like little guilty pleasure movies like My Spy. Do you remember that
Yeah.
movie a
Oh,
couple
yeah,
years
that was
ago?
her, huh?
She was the little kid from My Spy, which I actually like. It was her and Dave Bautista, and it was actually really good. Like I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, shockingly good. Yeah.
Yes, it was shockingly good. But it was she played that role pretty well in her own right. I felt like Sofina was a pretty solid, villain. She was menacing enough when she needed to be, and I felt like they did a good job of like building these storylines with her and Forge. Like it made sense that they were mutually helping each other, and the whole idea that everything that he was doing was just another large con. He was a con man, and then like everything that he was doing was just him conning out the city and counting out those rich people. It wasn't even like he was going truly evil. He was just setting up his next big con, in a way. Like he was throwing everybody under the bus, but it wasn't like he was doing it for the purposeful like malice of killing the people. He just didn't really care that they got hurt,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's good. Well, boys, anything else to say? I mean, I'm sure there's more we could talk about.
I'm looking forward to a sequel. If they
Yeah.
have
Are they going to do one?
I don't know. We'll see. I think so.
I think they definitely could do a sequel for
a lot
sure.
of good reception. I think.
Yeah.
So.
If they do, I hope they don't. You have those sequels that just blow it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as they don't do that. This one was, if they keep the rhythm, they keep the director, they keep the same style. You got to hope that it'll be
There's plenty
mimicked.
of. Nice.
There-
I like that. Look
yeah.
at what you did there.
Like that?
They had plenty of lore to build on.
Yes, there's endless content to build off of. There's so many things that they could dive into. There's all kinds of like, different monsters that they can end up facing. Like, one of the biggest D&D monsters is the Beholder, which is basically like a Medusa-like creature, with like a bunch of eyes that kind of like, freezes you in place and stuff like that. But so like there's all kind of like cool creatures that they can build in, and there's so much to build off of.
Dude, how about the time stop?
Oh yeah.
That
It's
thing
a
was
time stop.
There's a time stop.
Yeah.
That thing was cool.
It was, and you see him
freaky.
getting trapped in there.
Yeah. But anyways, I guess that's the last thing I'll say. Yeah, it was a fun movie. So, and big shout out to everyone who's joined us on this pod, on this adventure. All right, on this trek. What do you guys call them? Like when you do a mission.
A session.
On this session, everyone who's joined us on this session, a toast to you. All right. So big shout out to everyone who's listened. Just want to remind you to please subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening to it. Hit that subscribe button. Follow along on social media at Royal Geek Pod. Stay up to date with everything we got going on, and to please return for our many more movie adventures. Literally, like in the movie, like there was a string of like 5 trailers in a row where I was like, oh yeah, we're reviewing that this summer.
Yeah.
So literally, we have a very busy few months ahead of us. So we want you to return and join us for those sessions as well, okay? So with all that in mind, for my good friends Sandy and Shamato, this is T-Roll saying thank you so much for listening to the Royal Geek Podcast. We will see you next time, you peasants.